Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Bill Whitlatch. Although we're starting week 2, I did want to take a minute and recap week 1. First, let me say I really enjoyed reading and reviewing your discussion questions and your responses to your classmates. In the online environment, that's how we learn, by reading each other's responses, discussing and debating those responses. So what I want is for you to always be polite and professional, but do disagree with your classmates when it's appropriate. Part of becoming a leader or a manager is to be able to professionally disagree with your peers and your managers. Real leaders never want yes employees. That just isn't smart. Real leaders want honesty and integrity from their employees. When we can open our minds and truly listen to others, frequently we learn something. A characteristic of intelligent people is the ability to discuss different points of view without becoming angry or offended. Remember, no one knows everything, but everyone knows something. Yes, when I disagree with my boss, you can bet I try really hard to be polite and professional. I try to make sure that my disagreement is factual and not emotional. The best way to present a differing opinion whenever possible is to support your position with research. The more research that you can present to support your opinion or your position, the more solid ground you're on. Research removes emotion. Become the Joe Friday. Now, if you're not old enough to know who Joe Friday was, he was a detective on a TV show back in the 1960s and 1970s. Some of you may have seen him on old black and white reruns on Nick at Night or similar shows. Joe Friday was famous because he was devoid of emotion. His favorite saying was, "just the facts." So going forward, what I would like to see is more discussion and, when appropriate, a well-documented dissenting opinion. When I grade your responses going forward, I'll not only look at your responses to the class, but also at your responses to your peers. I want to know if you're participating in the class discussion. Do you have something to add more than "I read your post and I agree with it"? Try to respond to at least 3 of your peers' postings whenever possible. Now, the other thing that I wanted to talk about today is whenever I post a question, they're technically not graded. However, as you might imagine, if I post a question, it's because I think it's really important and might cause you to have some additional insights for this class. Your texts are good, but not always complete. So I'll count your responses to any questions or posts as part of the total responses for the week. So let's take a minute now and discuss ethics. Ethics is probably the most misused word in today's environment. Many of you came close to the answer I was looking for when we were trying to define or describe ethics. So let me tell you my viewpoint on ethics. Many or most people use the term ethics or ethical to describe good or bad behavior. They base the behavior on morals or laws and seldom on what actually defines ethics. In order to know if someone is acting ethically or unethically, there has to be a code of ethics or code of conduct established. Without a code, we have no frame of reference for ethics. The term ethics was never intended to be a generic term that describes human behavior. Think about it this way. How do we know if someone is acting illegally? We first have to know what laws were in place to know if the person's behavior is a violation of criminal law before we can describe their behavior as being illegal or legal. Without governmental laws, we cannot describe a person's behavior as being criminal or illegal. With ethics, it is exactly the same thing. Therefore, for me, I'm bound by many different codes of ethics and codes of conduct. I'm bound by the California Baptist University's Code of Conduct. The two professional certifications that I have both have codes of conduct, as well as the code of conduct at my full-time job. If I violate any of those codes, then I'm acting unethically. If I do not, then I'm acting ethically. So here's some food for thought. Are there times when I can violate a criminal law and still be ethical? Yes, there are. Can you think of any examples? Are there times when I can act unethically and not violate any criminal law? Yes, there are. Can you think of any of those types of examples? I'll repost these questions in a thread, and I'd like for you to respond to them.